Can an HOA prevent you from buying a home? In this episode, we're going to discuss all things HOA and if they can actually block you from purchasing in a specific community. Today we're going to discuss if you have to participate in an HOA if you move to a new neighborhood. Then we'll discuss some rules that HOAs aren't legally able to enforce. And then we'll discuss if an HOA can block you from making a purchase. All right, let's get to it. Okay, so there's two different types of HOAs that exist out there. There are voluntary and there's also involuntary. A voluntary HOA is going to be there to maintain tennis courts, clubhouses, community pools, and you are not required to pay HOA fees or are even required to participate in that HOA. The sole purpose of this HOA is really to provide the community with these different amenities and maintain those amenities. And if you want to participate in those amenities, then you're going to have to pay. Now, voluntary HOAs don't have sweeping power like your normal HOAs. Now, your mandatory HOAs are going to be HOAs in a community that not only maintain the amenities for the community, but they also have power to determine exactly what you're able to do on your own property. In some cases, people are all about this, and in some cases, people aren't all about this. And I'll give you an example from my own home. Recently, actually when we bought this home a couple years ago, we had to do everything to our home. I'm talking about we needed not only paint on the inside and new fixtures and everything, we also needed sprinkler systems and we needed to redo all of our landscaping. We needed to redo the stonework in the front of the house. It just needed a lot of work. In terms of our HOA, we had to submit 4 different applications for all the different things that we wanted to do to our home, even though they were definitely increasing the value of the home, and we had to wait on approval. It was actually a lot of work and a little bit frustrating. So yes, if you're going to have a mandatory HOA, there's going to be a ton of rules. And all of us have heard about the HOA members or the HOA themselves that have been overzealous in making sure all the rules are met. In fact, there's a lot of movies you've probably seen where you'll see the HOA member that's like measuring the inches to the grass to make sure that it's within spec. Just know that there can be some runaway HOA situations, but for the most part, the HOAs are in place to preserve your home value. And quite honestly, I'm on board with this. I currently have an HOA at my home, as I mentioned. My previous home did not have an HOA. Which one do I like more? I probably like the HOA better. I'm somebody who likes everything to be kind of a certain way. I like everything to be nice. I like kind of knowing what to expect on my block. And the HOA provides that. If the HOA didn't exist, literally somebody could have 4 broken down cars across the street. They can have their house painted fluorescent pink. They can do all kinds of things that at the end of the day would drive the value of my home down and not increase the value of the home. So just know that the HOA is not designed to be jerks to everybody in the community. They really just want to keep the value of your home and preserve the value of your home. Okay, now know that the HOA usually has board members that actually live in your community. In fact, my HOA community asked me if I wanted to be on the board. They asked me if I wanted to run for president of the HOA, and they asked everybody that's in the community. I'm not just special. And my answer is no, right? I don't want to be responsible for everybody who is upset about the way things are going or want to manage those types of requests. But just know that your HOA board members, they're not special. They just live in the community. One of the main things to remember is that your HOA cannot just decide to change rules at the drop of a hat. Just know that there's HOA protocols, and HOAs don't typically violate those protocols to call out some specific homeowner. In terms of fines, there's a lot of misunderstanding about this. People think they can be fined for anything, but the fines must be clearly spelled out in the bylaws within the HOA, and it doesn't matter who has power in the HOA. They can't just fine you for any random reason. One thing to also remember is that just because an HOA rules on your property concerning any one thing, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the final ruling. You can actually challenge an HOA's ruling at any time and even take them to court if it's something that is that severe. Also remember that HOAs can't discriminate based on ethnicity, race, religious belief, or even your family size. Any of these types of violations would incur a federal violation and would land your HOA into hot water. Before we get into the next segment, please like my video and subscribe to my channel. I'll be working hard to bring you a video each weekday over credit lending, real estate, and relevant personal finance topics. Okay, so here we are. We're going to discuss, can an HOA actually block you from making a home purchase? It's not common, but certain HOAs can have it written up in their bylaws to block you from making a purchase. As an example, if you don't have the appropriate credit standing. If you think that's not factual, it actually is. I have a current client right now that we're helping them with growing their scores. He was getting a condo in Florida, and his lender had already pre-qualified him. He's got the money down for the condo, and the HOA is blocking him from making that purchase because his credit scores weren't high enough. So I'm telling you that, yes, HOAs can block you from making a purchase. This is the first time that I've actually witnessed this. Now, I've heard that this happens all the time, but this is the first time that I've actually witnessed an HOA blocking a fully qualified buyer with plenty of money and a high income because their credit scores weren't to where they wanted them to be. Another thing about HOAs is, can they deny you based on criminal history or if you filed bankruptcy or had financial issues in the past? Well, we've just discussed that in some cases they can deny you based on credit score, but they can't actually deny you based on criminal history or whether you filed bankruptcy. The only time they can deny you is if you don't disclose that information on the HOA application. There is kind of a final scenario where an HOA can deny you and block you from making a purchase. Let's say you live in a community, and let's say you've broken HOA rules many times and you've been a headache for the community. I'm not saying this is you, but if the shoe fits, wear it. If you try to make a purchase in that same community with the HOA that you've been giving a hard time, there is a possibility that they have it written up in their bylaws that they can actually deny you from purchasing again in that same community. Okay, so if you have credit challenges or need help with your credit, then I have a gift for you. I'll have my team complete a complimentary credit analysis specifically tailored to your personal goals. The only cost is that you're going to be required to buy a smart credit report. This smart credit report gives us the data that we need to create a customized plan for you. Please click the link in the description below for more details.